How is it that some info businesses can predictably scale with ads in 2026, while others stay stagnant, constantly have bad month after bad month, and are stuck fighting for scraps? Well, my name is Orestes. I'm a direct response marketer and CMO for some of the biggest info brands out there, and I had the same question for years too. Because I would go online and I would see all these marketers posting about their wins, posting about how they're scaling the ad accounts they're working with, and we were doing the exact same thing. I was running the exact same ads they were running. I was doing the same things they were doing, but for some reason my results were mediocre while theirs was completely different. They were actually predictably scaling the businesses they were working with while I was not. So how could that have been? See, what I didn't realize at the time, which is the reason I created this video, is that scaling a business with ads comes down to a lot more stuff that are outside of copywriting. And it's actually some of the things that 80% of media buyers and creative strategists today are not doing that kills their performance. And see, after the Andromeda update, you can no longer rely on a few ads to do the heavy lifting for you. Nowadays, you have to follow a system and treat meta ads like a car engine. You fill it up with gas, but gas ultimately runs out, so you need to constantly keep putting fuel into the engine to keep the car running. And most marketers don't constantly put gas into the tank. Instead, they're sporadically creating ads whenever they feel like it, or they're pumping new ads into that account, but without a clear structure and a clear direction on why they are doing the thing they need to be doing. And if that's you, I promise you that by the end of this video, you will know how many ads you need to be launching per week so you can predictably scale the ad accounts that you're working on, how much testing budget you need to be allocating on those ads, and how to predictably scale an ad account by knowing your creative win rate and measuring that against your KPIs. We need to know out of every ad we launch, how many of them are actual winners. And this is something that not a lot of people look into, but it's actually a big number that tells a big story. And at the same time, most businesses don't know that number. If anything, they're not even thinking about it. But that number is called creative win rate. And I'm telling you now, 90% of media buyers and direct response marketers have no idea what their win rate is. But the formula is simple. Essentially, win rate is the number of winning ads divided by the number of ads you actually launched. Now, to give you an example for a specific client that I work with, our creative win rate is 25%, meaning that out of 100 ads that we launched, we have around 25 of them be actual winners. Which, to tell you right now, it's not usual, and with most clients I work with, that's not the number. Usually you see around 15%. 25 is just like the outlier. So essentially, again, what that means is that out of 100 ads, 25 of them are winners and 75 of them are being killed, which may sound brutal to you right now, but at the same time, this is actually a very good win rate, especially when you consider the amount of ads that we need to be pumping every single month or every single week to keep up with the Andromeda update. So all in all, it's very, very important that you know what that number is for you, because when you do so, you can reverse engineer everything from that number. So before we go any further, let me stop you there. Go into the ad accounts that you're working on and see which ads actually produce majority of the revenue. The ones that you find that produce the majority of the revenue, those are the winners. And I want you to divide that number by the total amount of ads that are in your ad account. And that's how you find your win rate. Now, let's just say that you're running 10 ads or 50 ads and you have around 20% of those ads being the winners. Now, to let you know why it's so important to know your win rate, let me tell you this. If you do not know your win rate, you have no idea how many ads you need to be producing to actually hit your revenue targets. Essentially, you're just launching and hoping. But if you want to scale the ad accounts you're working on, or if you're a business owner that wants to scale his business, or a marketer wanting to scale a client's business, you need to know how many ads you need to be producing. Now, let's take an example. Let's say you have an ad account that's spending on average $30,000 a month, all right? And you consistently pull a 3.5x ROAS on that ad spend, which that would mean that you're netting around $105,000 in revenue. Now, let's just say that that number is every month you hit that consistently and you're stuck there. How do you actually scale beyond that? Well, most marketers are afraid to see the 3.5x ROAS drop to 3x or 2.5x. But the truth is that if you do not have a lot of creatives that are pumping into the actual ad account, then what you're going to see in a few months is that 3.5x becoming 2.5x or even worse, because creative fatigue will start kicking in. And when that happens, most people don't understand why it happened because they never had a real testing underneath the campaigns that were actually winning. Now, ask yourself this, or the business owner of the company that you're working with: what's the lowest amount of ROAS you can drop so that the business can be profitable and can maintain that low ROAS until you start testing new ads? And now, to give you an example, let's just say instead of a 3.5x ROAS, the business can operate for a few months at 3x ROAS. It's not the best, it's not great, but at the same time, it's within the margin that a business can afford to stay at for a few months, so it can allow some testing to go on. That would mean that for the $30,000 in ad spend that you're allocating into that business, instead of $105,000, they would be making $90,000. So essentially, they're losing $15,000. Now, here's the truth. Out of the ads that you're going to launch, some of them are going to win and some of them are going to lose. Potentially, most of them are going to lose. But that's why it's important for you to know your win rate, what I talked about earlier. And I'm saying that because it means that not all testing budget goes to zero and just like wasted ad spend. It just means that you can afford to lose a few $1,000s in testing so you can find those winners in order to predictably scale. Now, if your win rate is 25%, that means 25% of the testing budget that you allocate produces some revenue, while the 75% doesn't. But depending on the revenue that you make from that 25%, it may compensate for the rest of the 75%. So the question here is, how much of that 30K in ad spend can you allocate into testing so you can find those winners by knowing your win rate? Now, let's just say that the business is comfortable with allocating $7,500 in the example that we're talking about. That would mean that $22,500 would be allocated into the proven campaigns so that the business can function and still run profitably. But now the rest of the $7,500 that the business can afford to put into ads goes into testing new ads. Now, watch what happens with a 25% of ad budget being allocated into testing. If your creative win rate is 25%, that would mean that $1,875 would potentially produce a 3.5x ROAS. And that depends based on like what your actual ROAS is for the proven campaigns. It can be a little lower than that, but at the same time, you will know that 25% of the spend will produce revenue. 75% of that testing budget, though, will not produce any revenue, likely, which means that $5,625, which is the rest of the 75%, would likely produce nothing or at best 1x ROAS. So when you put everything together, if at the best case scenario that 75% of testing budget produces 1x ROAS, you end up losing a 0.4x ROAS at the end of the month, and you actually end with 3.1x ROAS. Now, that may fluctuate, definitely will fluctuate depending on the months, but at the end of the day, at the end of the month, you will have a few creatives that you know you can put into a scale campaign, which the scale campaign essentially is where you already have the winning ads that are running and are proven, so you can increase your ad budget without having to risk losing the performance. I know it sounds daunting and it sounds like a period where you're losing a lot, but at the same time, this process of dropping the ROAS creates a pipeline of winning creatives being pumped into the ad account time after time, and using those to predictably scale the ad spend so you can maintain that ROAS that you have built. So now you know two things. You know your win rate and you know how much you need to be allocating into testing new ads every single month. But now let's figure out the last thing, which is how many ads you have to actually launch depending on your ad budget, which, to be honest, is simple math, but a lot of people do not know what the testing budget is for their ad account. That's why I covered the second part. Now, we're going to take an estimate here, and we're going to say that depending on what direct response funnel you're running, the average cost per result would be anything from $50 to $150. Now, depending on the funnel that you run, those numbers will fluctuate. If you're running a webinar and you're optimizing for registrations, obviously the cost per lead is what you're going to be optimizing for, and it's going to be a lot lower KPI for that. But if you're running VSL funnel or a book a call funnel and your target like cost per call is $300, it's completely different. For the sake of this example, we're going to keep it to $100. That is the KPI of the specific result that you want to optimize. Obviously, depending on the funnel that you're working on, you need to be changing that KPI, and you need to know what that KPI is in the first place. So our KPI is $100 per result, meaning that for the $7,500 that we're going to be allocating in testing, we need to be seeing a result every $100, which means that for every $100, we will know if an ad is a winner or not. which means that in order for us to define that winning ad and for us to keep up with the Andromeda update, we need to be doing this equation. $7,500, which is the testing budget that we have set, divided by the KPI that we've set, which is $100. That means we need to be testing 75 ads per month in order for us to be able to hit those numbers. Now, obviously, that sounds like extreme. That sounds like it's too much, but that involves video ads, it involves image ads, and it also involves UGC ads and AI ads, whatever you want to be testing. What's important to note, though, is that a lot of times your KPI is not going to be 100. Like, for example, for most businesses that I work with, we're targeting a cost per acquisition of $600 to $700, depending on the funnels that we're running. An ad needs to spend that much for us to know if it's a winner or not, which means that we're creating much less ads in order for us to know which ads are actually going to produce revenue or not. So again, depending on your funnel, you need to be testing different numbers of ads. But this is why this is important, and this is the numbers that you need to be tracking in order for you to know precisely. So what's the last piece of this puzzle? How do you actually know when an ad is winning or not? And winning is not only the ROAS. Obviously, that's the only thing that a business wants to look at, but that's a lagging indicator. ROAS comes later, and depending on your sales cycle, the ROAS may be delayed. So how do you know before a purchase hits your account from a specific ad if an ad is a winner or not? Personally, what I like to do is set mini KPIs into the lead journey, meaning what's the average or the lowest click-through rate I can allow in my ads? What's the opt-in rate? What's the lead to book a call ratio? If I know those numbers and I'm seeing that an ad is hitting those numbers, then I know that it's a potential winner before even the money hits the bank. So in the first few days, what you want to be looking at is those mini KPIs of like click-through rate, opt-in rate, cost per lead, that sort of stuff, which you can really see fast. Then on the next few days, you want to be tracking how many booked calls and what's the lead to booked call ratio, depending again on the funnel that you're running. And from there, you want to be looking at the actual KPI, which is the ROAS. If in the first few days, your ads are not hitting the mini KPIs that you've set, that's a signal for you to keep a very good look at them, because if in the next few days they don't lead to any booked calls, you need to cut them. Or if they're like completely bad in the first few days and they're not even close to those mini KPIs, that's a signal for you to kill them. But if they are hitting those KPIs and if they are hitting the booked call ratio, then you need to wait out the sales cycle for you to see if these ads will actually produce any revenue or not. It's a 3-step stage. And in order for you to know it, you need to set those mini KPIs in your lead journey that are important to your business, so you can track early if an ad is going to work or not. So all in all, if you want to predictably scale ads in 2026, you need to know these 3 things. 1, you need to be tracking your win rate. 2, you need to be reinvesting a portion of your ad budget into testing new ads every single month. And 3, you need leading KPIs so you can identify winners in 48 hours rather than a month. That's the engine. That's what you need to be following, and the system you need to be following to be pumping out new ads predictably so you can know what you're actually doing and you can know if you're actually going to scale that ad account or not. Now, within this entire process, there may be a few things that go wrong. For example, you may have a very low win rate. You may have a 2%, 3%, 5% win rate. That obviously makes it very, very hard for you to be pumping out a lot of ads and for you to be testing a lot of stuff. That would mean that you would have to burn a lot of money for you to make any back. So that would mean that you need to make more fundamental changes to your messaging and to your copywriting and to your copy to offer alignment so that you actually get that win rate way up. But essentially, if you know these numbers, you know what to work on and you know what numbers you need to be hitting every single month in order for you to predictably scale. Now, if you want me to break down how I personally pump out around 10 to 15 new ads every single week for the ad accounts that I'm working with, let me know below in the comments and I'll create a video about it. Have a great day and hopefully this was helpful for you. Bye-bye.